You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati Spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Actually, I'm not Kimberly Brumell. She'll be in here momentarily. I am Ethan Euchre. We have Mr. Jeff Wagstaff.
Hey, Ethan, good to see you.
Good to see you. Normally, Dr. Bonati would be seated over here as well, but he's not here yet either. Funny that it's the Bonati Spine Institute program, yet he and his associate, Kimberly, neither of them are here, though they will be here for the rest of the show, just not for this one. We do have Miss Brittany Padley standing by, our social media guru.
Good afternoon.
It's morning in some places, too.
Good morning as well.
Good day, indeed.
Yes.
A lot of good stuff going on today. We're actually going to speak with Eric Walrabenstein, a former Army officer who wrote a book called Waging Inner Peace, about how he used yoga and meditation to battle post-traumatic stress disorder. That'll be a good one. Then we'll hear from Rupert Isaacson, who actually, this one's really cool. He traveled the world looking for alternative therapies for his autistic son. Like, he visited the Southwest here in America, met with shamans, went and lived with some Bushmen and Africa, met with some people down under in Australia. Really, really cool stuff, looking for therapies for his autistic son, and actually found some really cool things. Chronicled the whole thing in his book called The Long Road Home. So we'll check all that out. Then we'll find out what's new in American medicine today. Up first, though, the point of the show is to highlight the work of Dr. Alfred Bonati at the Bonati Spine Institute and the good work that he does. So I figure, what better way to hear and highlight what he does than to speak with a patient.
In today's Back to Life segment, we will talk to a patient of the Bonati Spine Institute who went from living a life that was restricted by pain and discomfort through their journey of finding the Bonati Spine Institute and are now living pain-free.
Joining us on the phone, currently residing in Holiday, Florida, we have Mr. Wayne Allen. How you doing, Wayne?
Very good, Ethan. How are you?
I am doing excellent. I understand you're originally from Massachusetts?
Yes, sir.
Are you
Massachusetts?
Are you one of these mass holes, as they say?
I guess you would say that.
See, I'm from New York, so that's a big that's
a rivalry there, huh?
That's what we call people from Massachusetts. They're mass holes. Yeah. But you sound like a good guy. I like you already, Wayne.
All right.
You moved down to Florida 8 years ago. When did you start to experience pain?
Well, I'd say probably close to 11 years ago.
And what do you think it was from? Was it degenerative in nature? Did you have an accident?
Basically degenerative. Just all the abuse and sporting events and everything I did during my younger years had caught up to me after a while.
What kind of sports were you into? How active of a guy were you?
I played baseball, football, lacrosse through high school, and I was always active afterwards, playing softball and everything, so I've always been an active person and play golf, and I'm always keeping going.
Well, set the stage for us. Tell us a little bit about the kind of pain you were experiencing and how it affected your day-to-day life.
Okay, my pain actually was right across the lower back area, right along the belt line, basically, and it would radiate out into my hip area on both sides. And it came to the point where I wouldn't even be able to get out of a chair without extreme pain. Couldn't sit for a very long time. Couldn't actually lay down and sleep for more than 4 hours without having to get up and icing my back constantly. I wasn't able to go out and enjoy the things that I like to do until I met the Bonati Center.
Well, prior to that, how did you try any traditional pain relief? A lot of times people see chiropractors, they'll get injections.
Yes, I tried chiropractors. I actually tried acupuncture. I tried massage, and everything did work temporarily, but eventually all the symptoms came back.
What ultimately led you to the Bonati Spine Institute? How'd you find them?
Here's an interesting point, and I don't want to jump all over your story, Wayne, because it's your story, but apparently 10 years prior to your back pain, you attended a seminar of Bonati's, correct?
Yes, and on the Cape.
And why were you at a seminar for Bonati? Were you in pain at the time? And
I was experiencing a pain in a different area. It's in my rib cage, actually. It was caused by some torn muscles that I had received when I was coughing terribly with some walking pneumonia that I had got a couple years in a row, which I had gone through X-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, and to no avail. No doctor could tell me what it was or anything. And I just happened to run across the Bonati Institute putting on a
seminar.
A seminar, excuse me, thank you. A seminar in Hyannis, Massachusetts. And I went there, and we spoke to the people there, and I explained my problems, and they said if I could come down to Tampa, the area down here in Hudson, obviously, and let them check me out and everything. At that point in time, I wasn't able to get down here. But once I did move down here, the pain bothered me enough that I finally made the trip, and very happy I did.
So once you made your way down here from Massachusetts, Wayne, you found the Bonati Spine Institute, you contacted them, and after submitting your information, you got a phone call. Tell us about that phone call.
Yes, I got on the Bonati Spine, called me. It was a secretary of, I'm not sure, can't remember who the contact was at the first, but they said the doctor wanted to speak with me, and she put me on hold, and the gentleman came on the phone. He says, "Mr. Allen?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "This is Dr. Bonati," which quite surprised me.
Yeah, it's not often the actual surgeon, the man who runs the institute, gives you a call. So that must have made you feel good.
Yeah, I was quite pleased with that.
And so you described to Dr. Bonati what your pain was and whatnot. He diagnosed you actually over the phone, right?
Yes, I had told him my pain was in my lower back area, and it radiated out. And he stopped me at that point and said, "Okay, I'll give you a couple different scenarios." And when he hit the third scenario, it was exactly what I was feeling. And he said, "I'm confident I can take care of that problem for you."
Tell us a little about making your way to Hudson, going to the Bonati Spine Institute, and having that initial face-to-face evaluation.
All right, the first day I went, it was just wonderful. I met Paul at the door. He was very gracious, introduced himself to me, showed me the way over to sign in. I signed in with the girls in the office there. They brought me back out. I spoke with Eric, I believe it was, one of the nurses, and continued on from there. They sent me over to have my x-rays and MRIs done, and then I came back and I met with Dr. Uteg, which was my surgeon, and he went over every screen, every shot, every x-ray, every MRI shot, and explained to me exactly what was going on and how he could repair it, and felt very confident that he could take care of my pain.
So going into the operating room for your procedure, you just mentioned you felt pretty confident knowing what Dr. Uteg was about to do. Tell us about the procedure itself. For those who don't know, the Bonati Spine Institute utilizes a technique called conscious IV sedation, where you're relatively awake, aware, and alert throughout the procedure, allowing you to speak back and forth, communicate with the surgeon so you can pinpoint exactly where your pain is. What was your procedure like?
Yes, I first I went in and met with the nurses once again and the anesthesiologist, and they walked me into the operating room. I laid down on the bed and saw everyone was there, the doctors and everything, and from there I laid down on the bed, and actually the next thing I knew, I was waking up in recovery and had no pain at all. It was just amazing. I don't actually remember any of the surgery, but when Dr. Uteg came back into recovery and spoke with me, and he said that I answered all the questions, I was alert, and that was very helpful, and they think they took care of everything the way it needed to be, and for sure they did, and I was pain-free.
You were just a little more relaxed than the average patient.
Yes.
He was blackout drunk. That's what he was. No.
He had a couple cocktails on his way in.
Just kidding. No, but Wayne.
I actually was taking a little nap beforehand, actually.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, though, how as we speak with dozens and dozens and hundreds of patients, how varying degrees there are of their experience. Some people are so lucid, they remember every moment. They remember singing and laughing. They remember what people were talking about. And then there's people like Wayne who, were clearly awake and
But just don't
communicating, but don't recall. So,
La La Land.
Yep. So that happens as well.
Actually, my wife had just gone through surgery after I did, and she said she did remember everything.
Yeah. So maybe there's something wrong with you, Wayne. No.
Yeah, I was just too laid back. I was too comfortable.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. So when did you immediately started to feel relief of your pain in the recovery room?
Oh, yes. Once I woke up, the pain was gone.
Amazing.
The pain that I was feeling was totally gone. I was able to stand up, get out of bed, and walk, and I came in at 10:30 in the morning, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I walked out of the Bonati Center with none of the pain that I walked in with.
Fantastic. And we have Brittany here. I know Brittany was just out. Were you at his house?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not even going to ask Wayne. I'm going to ask you, since you were there with our American Medicine Today camera crew. How do you think Wayne is doing today?
Oh, I think he's doing great. The day we went to go see him, he spent probably, a half an hour taking a walk with your wife, which was something that you were unable to do before. So something so simple as just spending time outdoors and taking a walk with your wife and your adorable dog, Ben. It's wonderful to be able to see you do that, and I can only imagine it's wonderful for you personally to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's a great point, Brittany. Is we talk to patients every day who suffer, but if you think about it, their spouses suffer with them when they lose that quality of life. So it's so nice that your wife got her quality of life back as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you've since taken your wife to the Bonati Spine Institute, right, to get some issues she's had taken care of, right?
Yes, I have, yes.
And how's she doing?
She's doing very well.
Excellent.
Most of her pain is gone. She has a couple more surgeries to go, but she's doing excellent. We're out walking together. Something we haven't done in quite a few years. I actually got her a bicycle the other day, so we'll be out biking now.
Is it one of those corny two-person bicycles? Please tell me it's not.
Oh, no. We each have our own.
Excellent. All right, well, it's good to hear that you're, as we like to say, back to life and back in motion, you and your wife. Appreciate you calling in today and sharing your story with us, Wayne.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a great
week. Say enough about Dr. Bonati and his crew.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, and Happy New Year while we're at it.
Yes, Happy New Year to you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Totally forgot to mention that it's New Year's Eve, in case nobody noticed. But, another great story. No idea when that episode is going to air, do we? Or it may have already aired.
I believe it already aired.
Either way, you can check it out on YouTube, our YouTube page.
Yes.
You can see Wayne Allen's story.
YouTube.com/American Medicine Today.
Look at that. And if you are experiencing pain, you can give a call to the Bonati Spine Institute, 855-267-0482, 855-267-0482, or again, visit Bonati.com. More coming up on American Medicine Today. Stay tuned.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years, and it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results, no pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone, nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now, I can garden, I can cook, and I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati Spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Thank you for continuing to listen to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our friend Ethan Euchre.
Glad to be here.
And this man right here, we have Jeff Wagstaff, our other friend.
Howdy, howdy.
And joining us right now is Eric Wall-Robinstein, a former U.S. Army infantry officer and author of Waging Inner Peace, How 5,000 Veterans Use the Ancient Secrets of Yoga and Mindfulness to Reclaim Their Lives from Stress, and how you can too. Thanks for joining us, Eric.
It's my great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Now, Eric, it just seems to me to be sort of an odd path in life to go from a former U.S. Army infantry officer to becoming this chilled-out yoga master. Tell us how that happened.
Well, I never said I was chilled out, first of all. But
Correction.
It's a funny thing, to be honest. If you would have asked me, 30, 40 years ago, what I would be doing at this stage in my life, I would have never guessed I'd be here.
Sure.
But the interesting thing is that the whole path to helping people with the technologies of yoga and meditation actually started before I got into the Army, and this was way back in 1980. I was in Sacramento, California as a young kid of 17 years old, and I got mugged. And it was a group of thugs who beat me up pretty good and left me on the concrete floor of a parking garage. And at the time, it wasn't that bad. They had knives and such. I wasn't stabbed or anything, but I figured, a few days I'll heal up and be no worse for wear. But the truth of the matter is it left me with something of what I know now is a chronic stress injury. And so for a good 15 years after that, dark enclosed spaces would send me into a low-grade panic, and people who looked like my attackers would set me off. And I was dealing with a whole host of things like insomnia and anger management. And it was these things that actually drove me to want to investigate meditation and yoga and other mind-body sciences to help heal myself, which fortunately I was able to do.
So it was a form of PTSD in essence, correct?
It was certainly on the way to, if not full-blown PTSD.
Wow.
Interesting that, I'm assuming being in the Army, did you ever serve in combat?
I was lucky enough to not have been deployed. I was actually in prior to all of the fireworks that started in the first Gulf War. So I was not deployed.
That's interesting. That someone who served in the Army, was an officer, then comes back and gets mugged, and that's essentially what caused the PTSD, which, speaking of, we cover that a lot on the show. Why do you think there is such an epidemic of PTSD nowadays in returning soldiers?
Well, there's two pieces to it. I believe, first of all, we're exposing people to horrific circumstances for protracted periods of time in the conflicts we have going on and had going on over the last decade or so. But the second part of it is, and you guys know this as well as anyone, that post-traumatic stress disorder is an exceedingly tricky and difficult thing to bring back under control.
Right.
And particularly when you look at the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of people suffering with this and an under-resourced bureaucracy that is charged to solving the problem, it's kind of a formula for, I don't want to say disaster, but certainly some significant challenges.
Sure. So do you think that's because when soldiers come back, they're not given any tools to acclimate themselves again to being a regular civilian?
It's a tough transition.
Yeah, there's no doubt that reintegration is a problem, and the military and the Veterans Administration are getting better at this. But we spend a lot more time getting people ready for war than bringing them back home.
Sure.
But if you add to that, and we discovered this with the Bootstrap program, which is really the basis of my book, Waging Inner Peace. And it's a 10-week yoga-based program helping troops and veterans and now other people with chronic stress disorders. But what we found was that one of the chief symptoms of chronic stress conditions is the reluctance to seek help. So even when people are offered help, particularly in the early stages of the condition, there's this great reluctance to take that help for a whole a host of different reasons, and that exacerbates the challenges that are already presented by the condition itself.
Eric, I realized when Ethan was asking that question, I kind of thought back in my mind, and we've talked to dozens of different guests about aspects of PTSD. But one thing that I realized as you were speaking, that the enemy that we fight today, if you will, is much more barbaric than they were in Vietnam, World War II, World War I. I wonder if the new fight, if you will, and the thing that these guys are experiencing makes it even more intense.
Well, that's absolutely the case. I've spent an awful lot of time working with veterans, both people I've served with and some of the thousands of people that have come through the Bootstrap program, from folks all the way back to World War II vets to our current conflicts. And one of the things that is a hallmark of this current conflict is really the IED, or the improvised explosive device, or roadside bomb in conventional terms. Sure. Because what that has done is there is no longer a defined front line, that no matter where you are and what you do in the military, even if you're a supply sergeant, you are under this constant threat of being attacked by a roadside bomb.
Anywhere, anytime.
Right, and this sets the nervous system into high alert for a prolonged period of time, which, of course, to put it in technical terms, it exceeds the design tolerances for the nervous system, and this is the beginning stages of post-traumatic stress or any number of other chronic stress disorders.
And Eric, your book talks about not only yoga, but also a concept called mindfulness. Tell us what that means.
Well, let me take them both together, because when we talk about yoga, most people think about yoga postures. And
stretching.
What I'm really doing in the book and within the Bootstrap system is mining yoga and mindfulness, which really has to do with consciously managing our thoughts, our emotions, and our attention in a way that moves us towards healing, as opposed to a way that moves us towards imbalance. Okay. And the truth of the matter is that much of the stresses that we experience, whether it's from the battlefield or a 20-year high-stress career, comes from inside us. And it's really not so much about the circumstance as much as it is our reaction to our response to the circumstance. So we use these mind-body tools, if you will, in a way that helps people to really kind of get control of these hidden tendencies of mind and attention that add to the stresses of everyday life or to a traumatic event.
So is that almost like, they say in psychology, there's something called a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you think positive thoughts, you will obtain a positive outcome, but if you put a negative in your mind, then you're always going to have a negative reaction. Is that somewhat similar to what you're saying there? You try to retrain the brain for more positive outcomes, think about doing things more in a positive light? Is that what you're saying?
That's one slice of it, no doubt about it. But what we've done in the book is we've identified, and this comes from our work with the veterans over the past 10 years or so, is we have identified certain tendencies of mind that actually make our stress worse or create unnecessary stress. And an example is, one of these habits is we call resistance. And resistance is really about, and it's mental and emotional resistance, and it's really about this kind of thought that this should not be like this.
Okay.
And no matter what situation is, this should not be like this. Whenever we resist something, it gets worse. So the example, if you're sitting in traffic, driving down the freeway going 15 miles an hour in the fast lane, most of us think that sitting in a traffic jam is stressful. But the truth of the matter is, what's really happening is we're sitting in a comfortable chair, we have some air conditioning wafting over us, and we're listening to a delightful radio program, much like the one we're listening to here. And there's really nothing within the circumstance to create stress, unless and until we resist it with this should not be like this traffic should not be like this, I should have taken another route, they should have built a bigger freeway. And it's that mental tendency that actually creates all sorts of optional stress in our body. And by understanding how that works and using specific tools, we can interrupt that tendency and a whole host of others as well.
I actually do that with my wife all the time because she's a crazy, she's 100% Italian. She's got the craziest temper. She's so hot-headed, and I'm really even-keeled and chill. So she'll start road raging, and I just say, there's nothing you can do about it. So if you just accept that you're in this situation, that there's nothing you can really do to change it, you're just in it until you get to where you need to go, it kind of takes the edge off a little bit. Are there any other tips in the book, Eric, that the viewers and the audience and the listeners can take away to be a little more at peace?
Well, the number one core, I think the most valuable thing in the book is this idea that there are certain habits and tendencies within us that are creating our stress, and that by getting a handle on them, that we can make really exponential growth in wellness and happiness and productivity in our lives. With that said, there's any simple mindfulness technique or meditation technique like yoga or any number of other things can really help to reset the nervous system when it gets out of whack. And I'm not necessarily talking just about traumatic events, but even this hectic, ever-quickening pace of modern-day life and technology and all of the rest puts an enormous strain on the nervous system. So getting back to the simplicity of some of these mind-body practices can be a really, really big start in reclaiming that kind of vitality, happiness, clarity, and wellness that we once had.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Eric Stein, thank you. You're a former U.S. Army infantry officer, so thank you very much for your service to the country, and author of Waging Inner Peace, How 5,000 Veterans Use the Ancient Secrets of Yoga and Mindfulness to Reclaim Their Lives from Stress.
And Eric, the book isn't just for necessarily veterans. It's
anyone.
Anybody can participate in this book, right?
Absolutely true. It's 100% relevant for anybody with a nervous system, which is all of us.
That's all of us.
Everyone.
All right. Well, cool. We appreciate you joining us.
And I like
Thanks
the
so much,
analogy
guys.
for
Have a
traffic.
wonderful day.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Bye-bye.
Take care.
You too. I can certainly use that one as I'm driving around.
Just got to breathe.
I know.
Relax
right, 'cause
a little bit.
You're absolutely right. You can't change it. You just need to deal and shed the stress. Well, as we all take a deep breath, we'll be back. You're listening to American Medicine Today.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati Spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Thank you for joining us on American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by Ethan Euchre.
Glad to be here.
And Jeff Wagstaff.
Yes, I am.
Well, we're excited because joining us is Rupert Isaacson, author of The Long Ride Home, The Extraordinary Journey of Healing That Changed a Child's Life. It details the amazing quest Rupert and his wife went on to help their autistic autistic child, Rowan. So thanks for being here, Rupert.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Rupert, this is just an incredible story, touching me in a personal way as well, because my nephew, I've mentioned it before on the show, he's 5 years old. His name is Bennett. He has autism. So anytime I see a new idea, a new therapeutic technique, anything like that, I always want to investigate it. And this, like I said, is an amazing story. Tell us a little bit about your son, Rowan. How severe was his autism, and how did a horse named Betsy start this whole journey?
Okay, yeah, my son was pretty severe. He was diagnosed back in 2004, nonverbal, tantruming, incontinent, what a lot of people recognize as the more severe end of autism. But I'm a journalist and a good observer, and I just observed he did better outside in nature. He tantrumed less when he was on the trails outside our house. And so that's where we were all the time. And because of that, he ran towards one day my neighbor's mare, Betsy, and I thought, my God, he's going to get killed, because he threw himself under her hooves while she was there grazing. But in fact, that didn't happen. Something rather amazing happened. She bent her head to him and began to lick and chew and half closed the eye. I am actually a professional horse trainer. I was keeping my son away from horses because I thought he wasn't safe. This behavior that Betsy did is a submission acceptance gesture, like a dog showing its belly. But I hadn't seen a horse spontaneously do this before. It was amazing.
Almost like Betsy was treating Rowan as a foal, right?
Right.
Totally, and modifying her behavior accordingly. And actually, you see this happen quite a lot with mammals and very vulnerable young children. He wanted to get up on her back. He would put his arms up and sort of jump. I knew her. I knew she was a quiet mare. When I put him on her back, and he would just lay there body to body, all his stimming, the flapping, the rocking would stop. I had this different kid. But when I started riding with him in the same saddle, I got my first expressive speech. We were walking down towards a pond on her back, and a big blue heron got up and flapped away, and he said, heron. I didn't know he knew that word. I was like, oh my gosh, the door into his mind is open, and we were away, and that's where it began.
So what made you travel all the way to Mongolia, and what was that trip like?
Crazy.
The reason is because from the day that I realized that Rowan was speaking on the back of the horse, I basically lived in the saddle with him. And I taught him not just to speak up there, but literacy. I would paint letters on trees, and we'd put them together and sing songs from The Lion King and paint the letters of the characters on the trees. He learned to read. I would have groups of my friends line up in front of us on the horse, and we'd take one away and add one and divide them by charging at them. And he learned his basic maths. However, with Mongolia and the subsequent trips across Africa and Australia and the Navajo reservation that the long ride home details, the reason we did that was because my day job is I'm a journalist, and I work in human rights mostly in Africa. That's where my family is from. The year that Rowan was diagnosed and met Betsy, I had to bring a delegation of hunting and gathering tribes from the Kalahari Desert in Botswana to the United Nations and the U.S. State Department. Some of the guys on that delegation were trained healers in their culture. They met Rowan. They offered to, quote-unquote, work on him. And I said, sure, why not? The worst thing that can happen is nothing. It's really just prayer. Go for it. And to my amazement, for about the 5 days they were together, he really did lose some of his more obsessive symptoms. So I couldn't help but think, okay, radical and positive reaction to the horse, radical and positive reaction to this type of healing. Is there a place on the planet that combines these two things? Actually, yes, that's Mongolia. It's where the horse comes from, strong system of shamanism there, gut feeling, gotta go. So that was where our adventures began.
And when you met up with this shaman, how do you just randomly find a shaman on the steppes of Mongolia?
Right.
The
answer is you don't. If you're a journalist like me and you're an obsessive, exhaustive investigator, which I am, and you're already working in the world of indigenous tribes, which I was, for human rights and for journalism, I sort of knew where to begin my search. And I talked to friends who worked in Central Asia, and I said, is there anyone whose name sort of keeps coming up there as a traditional healer? I spoke to other journalists who'd been in that area, and a name kept coming up, and it was the name of a guy called Ghost, who lived in the mountains of southern Siberia. And lots of people I knew who were journalists, who were human rights workers, some even doctors who'd been out there, had met him and said, this guy seems to really get results. We don't really even know why, but he does. But he lives in a very, very, very remote part of southern Siberia where they herd reindeer. They live on reindeer. They ride reindeer. It's extraordinary. And the only way in there is on horseback. And so we did that. And we went there. We got there.
And you found
him. And what was extraordinary was that Ghost worked on Rowan. It took us, a month to get in there for about 3 days. And at the end of it, Rowan, 24 hours after coming down that mountain, did his first intentional poo and cleaned himself. And I tell you, it was like watching England win the World Cup, which will never happen. And then we counted in the 2 weeks that it took us to get home to America. We counted maybe 6 tantrums of any note. And normally that would be about a day's worth.
So he got markedly better after having seen...
More than that. He was a different kid. But still autistic. We were not looking for a cure. Let me get this straight. I don't think there's any need to cure autism. Autism is a perfectly viable way of going through your life. I know many adult autists who have grown up to have careers, love lives, and so on. Yes, if you can't speak, if you're incontinent, these sorts of things, we need to address these. But usually we can. But there's a real genius, and there are many gifts that go with autism, and we don't want to suppress those.
Okay.
So Rowan came back a really functional sort of autistic child, making friends with all the kids in the neighborhood and beginning his own project. The shaman of the reindeer people, they told me I had to do 3 more journeys to fix or confirm the healing. And in fact, a year later, he did begin to regress again. Okay. And that was why we then went out to Africa and subsequently to Australia, and subsequently here in America onto the Navajo reservation with some Native American healers. And each time there was an extraordinary leap forward.
How long did the progress last? I mean, is it still to this day what he gained, he keeps?
Yeah.
On those journeys?
Absolutely. So that the last journey that we did was now back in 2010. And not only has the healing lasted, but Rowan now has his own web-based television show. It's called EndangerousSafaris.com. If you write the word dangerous, put an EN on the front of it, and then add safaris, go on there. He travels around the world now after animals that are both endangered and dangerous.
I love
and makes little ecological pieces about them that are all about toilet humor as well. They're hilariously funny.
So it's right up my alley, so to speak.
you can tell he's my son, basically.
Yeah.
Rupert, you touched on something early when your son first met Betsy next door. Have you been able to investigate or learn any more between the relationship that animals tend to have a certain awareness, a certain sixth sense in dealing with any kind of a special needs child? I have seen video, I've seen it in person, where animals tend to have an awareness that we can't comprehend. Have you been able to investigate any more of that?
Yes, I have. I mean, I now have 2 programs. We run a foundation now called the Horseboy Foundation, and we have our own equine therapy approach, which is for neurocognition, called Horseboy Method. And then we have a way of doing it without horses. I'm actually sitting in New York City about to go train an autism school in the middle of Manhattan in our program called Movement Method, where we have taken all the things that you can get neurologically through this type of movement you get on a horse, and I'll tell you in a moment how that affects the brain and how you can actually do this in any environment. Any parent listening now could do it in their living room, on their couch, in their backyard. So there's 2 things going on. One is obviously the relationship with the living animal, the social skills that come from that, the sensory calming of an overactive sensory system that comes with the contact of the animal, and the thing that you can't put your finger on, which is the love between a child and an animal. And we see this all the time. And people that poo-poo it usually are people that don't live close to animals. But anyone who does knows that there is something rather miraculous in this. However, there is also something very scientific. I'm actually married to, Rowan's mother is a professor of educational psychology at the University of Texas. So we had access to a lot of neurologists and a lot of ed-psych people and so on. And when we noticed that it wasn't just Rowan, but all the other kids that used to come for play dates, we were getting the same effects with them: literacy, numeracy, communication. And we realized that it was when the horse was moving in certain rhythms. And these were very balanced and rocking rhythms, like a very gentle lope or a very nice jog trot, that sort of thing. And that's where we'd really get our best results. And we figured out why, or at least the neurologists did. There have been quite a few studies into what we do now through different universities worldwide. Mm-hmm. And basically it's this, that the way in which the child's hips get rocked when the horse is moving in that way cause his body or her body to produce the feel-good and communication hormone oxytocin. And that calms the overactive nervous system, which is what's causing the agitation, the tantrums, and all that stuff in the kids. Once that happens, the same rocking and balancing motions, this is where it gets amazing, activate the cerebellum. The cerebellum produces a series of cells called Purkinje cells, which sound like little Pokemon characters, but actually what they are is a series of circuits within the brain that get the different parts of the brain to communicate properly. Again, this is something that's often lacking or not well developed in autistic kids. That fires up the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is reasoning, emotional regulation, and planning. In addition, it causes your brain to produce a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is basically like miracle growth for the brain. It causes your brain to produce scads and scads of neurons. And finally, the vestibular system is activated, which is balance and attention. So the kid is in this ideal position suddenly to both receive and retain information. And when we realized this, we thought, oh my gosh, well, most kids don't have access to horses, and even Rowan is not on the horse 90% of the time. Could we not do this on the trampoline? Could we not do this on a swing? Could we not do this on our shoulders in a pool, etc.? We thought, actually, we can, and we can teach him that way. So we started to homeschool, and now we teach parents and school districts all over America, all over the world, how to do this. It's called movement method.
That was going to be my next question.
Well, I was going to say, we're basically out of time, Rupert. I could talk to you all day about this, but very, very briefly, tell us where people can find out more about the movement method, specifically parents of children who fall on the autistic spectrum, please.
Absolutely. Well, parents, you can do this yourself. You do not need to hire expensive therapists. You can break free from that. Go to kidsmustmove.com. That's our website, kidsmustmove.com. Download the home course that you can do on there. Also, if you buy the book, The Long Ride Home, and that's thelongridehomebook.com, or you can get it on Amazon. It's detailed how we developed it in there, and all the proceeds from that, by the way, go to help autism families get free services. But kidsmustmove.com, you can download a free course, you can do it at home, and you can start doing it today in your backyard. You can kiss goodbye to having to spend tens of thousands on expensive things.
Amazing research.
Really can.
And we spoke off air, Rupert. That's one of the big things with my brother and his son is that my brother's a firefighter. He's a civil servant. He doesn't make a lot of money, and his wife works at home to take care of their child. So, I mean, he's working three jobs to pay for therapies.
She can take over the kids' education. She can take over
and they could do this right
the
at
kids'
home.
therapies in a way that she can become so competent that if she then decides to hire somebody, they have to be at least as good as her. That feeling of helplessness and that feeling of, oh my gosh, we sort of are over a barrel here being held to ransom, and all these mega expensive therapies. Any autism parent listening knows exactly what I'm talking about, how expensive this is.
Absolutely.
And this is the great, bane of being a special needs parent. This can end.
All right. Well,
thank you. You were so fortunate to have the job you do, and your wife for having the job that she does to put everyone together to be able to come up with this movement method.
Yeah.
And shedding light on it. Yeah. It's so important.
And we're very lucky. We've had some amazing mentors at different universities helping us too, and continue to. So it's a constantly developing thing.
Excellent.
But I count myself very fortunate for sure.
Well, once again, Rupert, the book is called The Long Ride Home: The Extraordinary Journey of Healing That Changed a Child's Life. The author is Rupert Isaacson. That website again is kidsmustmove.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You are watching American Medicine Today. Make sure you stay tuned because coming up, you'll hear more.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati Spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brummel.
Thanks for joining us on American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brummel, joined by our friend Ethan Euchre.
Glad to be here.
Jeff Wagstaff is around in spirit, and across from us we have world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonati of the esteemed Bonati Spine Institute.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Doc, I know, and it's perfect timing, given that it's New Year's Eve.
Yes.
You wanted to talk about the greatest generation.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I was looking at television the other day, and I saw the attack in Pearl Harbor, and then I saw the residual individuals from the greatest generation. And I start to have thoughts, why the people at that time, during the First World War and the Second World War, why these people were so special.
Okay.
Why the people today is not. Why the youngest individuals today are so brainwashed that they practically hate their own country. So I look at this thing with a lot of pain, and I start to look at the system and I say, why we don't have this type of people again? Well, I really think what is happening here is the schools are indoctrinating the kids.
Absolutely.
The indoctrination of the kids came after the generation of Vietnam. And that indoctrination is affecting the minds of the youngest. And the youngest have always a lot of hopes in life. And one of the hopes is to be better and to have opportunities and to grow and to have families, people that they love each other. But this generation is not doing that. It's looking for who is going to support me, who is going to help me. I am entitled to do this. I will sue somebody to get a better life. All these things are typical of a sick mind of a left side of indoctrination.
Right. They got rid of what was called the American dream, what everybody strove to achieve. You spend your life trying to figure a better way, how to make your own way, how to become a business owner or a tradesman.
The things that I see today, for example, is you hate the rich. You hate the individuals that they perform better. You have envy of somebody who has something. And then I look and I say, this is exactly the way that the socialism works.
Right.
They create mediocre, feeble, incompetent, and resentful people that they cannot survive unless the government is going to help.
Right, but you brought up a good point. You just said people are jealous or they look at what somebody else has spent their life obtaining, and instead of them wanting to work to achieve it, they just give me some of that, it's mine.
Exactly.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
What I find interesting, Doc, is that it's the greatest generation's children
that are
the
ungrateful.
baby boomers. Well, no, they're the ones that raised this current crop of ungratefuls.
But
So,
do you understand? I got the solution.
Let's
do
hear
you
it.
understand why?
Well,
when the first, what?
The why. It's your turn for the why.
Well, no, I didn't finish my point. My point was I think it's interesting that it's the greatest generation that just, some of them were underage. I have, the 17 years old, they signed up to go to war because they wanted to fight for this country. They fought and won the war and were able to then give a better
life to the children.
Better life to their children who just started to grow up thinking, wow, this is great. This is a great America. Thanks to the greatest generation. Then they had kids, and now those are the ones that we're dealing with now that just expect everything.
Do you ever have a thought why that happened? Do you have any idea why that happened?
You tell me, Doc.
I know what he's going to say.
I really think this is the problem. The greatest generation, they didn't have a choice. You can be an individual who goes to war or goes on the service, but was an obligatory service.
Right.
The individual was drafted to the military. So when you draft people to the military, you reform that individual. I don't care if the individual is lazy, cannot be lazy in the military. No. I don't care if the individual is incompetent, cannot be, because they're going to kick their butt so bad that the guy is going to perform. I don't care if the people wants to sleep too many hours, he's not going to be able to do it, because at 5 o'clock will be on his feet. So what they do is what the parents were unable to train on these individuals, the military did.
Right.
The draft is what changed, and when change is when the people of the oldest of the greatest generation come back to the system of America after the war. The people who supposed to be drafted for Vietnam, they didn't. The people of Vietnam is the lazy bums. The people of Vietnam become now two types of drafting in the military. One, the ones that they really want to go to the military, that they assign themselves there, they become recruits by themselves.
Right, by choice.
And the other one was people that was forced to go there.
Right.
Look at that people. Look at these people who came from Vietnam after fighting there. Incredible people. Look at the generation that was left in the country, that they become the teachers, the feeble individual. I don't want to be drafted. I am going to the school. I'm not going to do anything that is war, peace for everything. That people is today the teachers.
Right.
In the schools.
That are teaching this
generation. This is the people who is now teaching, indoctrinating our students. The solution for the country, if we want to remove the left side sick brain, we need to create a military drafting.
Bring back the draft.
Bring back the draft. And if you bring back the draft, you're going to have the new great generation again.
All right. Well.
Wow. You heard it here, folks.
I don't know what you have to do to. We should look into that. Maybe get a.
I think we need to start to talk more and more.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will do that in the new year.
Well, there certainly needs to be a greater love of country, and we will get that with Donald Trump. Make sure you stay tuned, because that about wraps up American Medicine Today. We appreciate you tuning in. Like us on Facebook. Tweet at Dr. Bonati using hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We'll see you next time.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome's been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati Spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Bermel.
Thanks for still continuing to listen to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bermel with my friend Ethan Euchre.
I am glad to be here, friend.
Yes.
Yes.
Aren't we all?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, thank you for continuing to listen on the affiliates, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Our flagship station is based out of Tampa. It's 970 WFLA. They, unfortunately, have to dip out early in the program. Yep. Everyone else gets to listen to this luxurious...
It's just for you.
...extra segment.
Yes.
So what I wanted to talk about is a lot of people don't realize American Medicine Today is not only a radio show, but we also have...
You have two components.
Yes, we have a television show as well.
Yes.
And I've heard a lot of people... I have a lot of friends that work in sports radio, and a lot of times they'll be out at sports bars to cover different college football games and things like that.
There we are.
And because of the time, we're on at 7 o'clock, right? In the Tampa market.
In the Tampa market and 6 throughout the United States.
Yep, on Bloomberg.
Yes.
A lot of times I'll get pictures texted to me from buddies that in a packed bar, they're waiting for a football game to start and we're the lead in. And they're like, look at this guy up on the TV.
Yeah.
But
we're a great lead in.
It is.
Yes.
But it's an interesting show and we get to do some really cool things. And a recent episode, it might be the one tonight, is Clearwater Marine Aquarium.
Yeah, CMA.
We got to head out there, and people would know that because of Dolphin Tale.
Yes.
Have you watched it yet?
I only saw part of the movie. I tried to turn it on too late. Yeah, and I couldn't possibly keep my eyes open. And I wanted to, and I struggled. And I saw probably half of the movie.
Well, and you have a child. You would think I don't have any kids, and yet I made myself watch the movie. I say I made myself. It was a good movie.
It's a great movie, and it's not just any old movie. It's based on reality of what really happened. And so Winter the dolphin, so cute. I got like within striking distance.
Yep.
I guess if you would call petting distance, how about that?
I love you equate it with like I'm just gonna beat the hell out of this dolphin.
I didn't mean it that way.
You
I
and
just
your stubby tail.
No, I was thinking, what if she got mad and through her blowhole, she just like spit water on me? I thought I was in like striking distance.
That would have been great TV.
I'm not a violent person. You take it there. I don't go there.
You said striking distance.
I love animals.
No, but you were able to get right down next to Winter.
My goodness, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
I wanted to jump in and play with her. Yeah.
But they won't let you.
I know.
And then you had to take off all your jewelry and things.
I did, yes.
I knew that was going to be a big issue with Kimberly because she likes her jewelry.
I do.
And
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was pretty cool just seeing the whole backstory of what happened with Winter. Obviously, people that have seen the movie know the backstory.
Right. But creating the prosthesis.
No, we actually got to talk to the people involved. David Yates, who runs the aquarium, who was actually the mastermind behind turning Winter's story into a film. He took over as the marketing director at Clearwater Marine Aquarium, and he said, "You know what? I gotta find something to take this place to the next level."
Yes, and he did.
And Winter was like 2 months old, I think. Got caught in a crab trap.
Lost her tail.
Ended up losing her tail.
And a couple vertebrae, yeah.
A couple vertebrae. Had to relearn how to swim.
Oh, she's a fighter.
Total fighter. They didn't expect her to live for more than a couple of days.
It is really a gut-wrenching story when you think about it. This thing survived against all odds, taught herself how to swim differently than what dolphins typically do because she had that fight in her.
Yeah, typically a dolphin, as you know, swims
up and down.
with an up and down motion, and Winter didn't have those tail fins. What are the fins? Flukes.
Flukes,
yes.
yeah.
Thank you, Ben. They're called tail flukes. And Winter didn't have those to propel her forward, so she started moving it side to side.
Like a shark.
Which worked,
But it also was at the cost of her spine.
Yeah, they said that she was going to have major problems with her back, so they had to come up with a solution. And they contacted a company in Japan, I believe, that had made one for another dolphin named Fuji.
Right, but not necessarily the same problem.
It wasn't. It was a different problem, and I don't think it was as flexible. And
correct.
They ended up teaming up with, Hanger Clinic. Thank you. Ben should just crack a mic.
I know.
He's got all the info. But no, it was just a great story, and to be able to see the tail, we held the tail
and felt a skin that actually not only helped Winter acclimate to her tail, but it's actually helping humans.
Yeah, they literally invented something called Winter's Gel.
Or Winter's Gel, yeah.
Yeah, or both. And what they do is they needed something that would cushion and keep it from abrading her skin. So kind of a barrier between the tail and Winter's skin.
Yeah.
So they invented this stuff, again, called Winter's Gel. And now it's being used everywhere.
Yep. And in fact, on one of our shows that we just taped, we met a double amputee. And I asked the question, I said, "Is that Winter's Gel?" And he said, "Yes, it is." And it's amazing how things come full circle.
How everything ties in.
Yeah.
And you kind of just randomly asked him that.
I did. When I saw he was a double amputee, and I went, oh, because I thought maybe I was going to steer him in a really cool direction. He's like, "Hey, I use it. It's right here." And he met Winter the dolphin, and he was actually in the movie. What a small world.
He was an extra. That's crazy. But anyway, so our visit to CMA is going to be an upcoming episode of the television show. Really cool. And it was cool just to go out there and get to see that pelican and, all the Rufus.
Yeah.
That was his name, right?
Yeah.
And then Mavis, I think, the turtle. It was just really neat to see. And then The Office that Harry Connick Jr.'s character uses. We actually filmed interviews in there. So
we got to take some selfies.
That was pretty neat. Well, you're the queen of selfies, so.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm usually the queen of taking everyone else's picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have yet to see that. But anyway, we did the CMA show.
This is what you get when you work with a bunch of men. I work with some women, then they're sitting here and they have the Ethan.
Actually, we're outnumbered. Ben and I are outnumbered. I don't know what you're
we
talking
have
about.
an amazing team. And then we also made it out to St. Cloud, Florida, because they're helping veterans that suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and other special needs individuals with equine therapy. Right?
Yeah, it's essentially a horse farm, and they teamed up with UCF, the University of Central Florida, to help these soldiers. They also help people with disabilities. People with autism, CP, cerebral palsy, different things like that.
And that's at the McCormick Research Institute.
In St. Cloud, right. And that's where we met the double amputee that had the winter skin. And it's pretty interesting to see sort of his story, which you'll see on an upcoming episode as well, that he got hit by a mortar, correct? He was in a Humvee, got hit by a mortar, blew the hell out of his Humvee, and there will be photos
just
that he let us use.
Stuff. And
lost both of his legs.
Yeah, and he was talking about how he tried to keep himself calm. It's really a shame what the country does to the veterans when they put their lives on the line. And what struck me is looking at the pictures, because we all line up and we can't wait to get into that action film or a military film. And it's not necessarily always based on reality. And you see these pictures and they're so graphic, and you realize this man lived through it, and he didn't get knocked unconscious. He was very well aware
the whole time.
he lost his legs, and he said that he knew he couldn't panic because if he panicked, he would bleed out. So it was just amazing to hear his thought process. And he said in his mind, he was more upset. He lost his boots.
Yeah.
Brand new boots.
And to hear him tell that story was just insane. He said, I looked down, my one leg was gone. I looked at my other leg, and it was basically turned completely around.
Yeah, facing him.
Yeah, facing him. And he said, I told myself to stay calm because if my heart rate got up, because I would bleed out. And yeah, I think he yelled to one of it, because he was, I think, the sergeant. So he had soldiers under him, and he was yelling to them that he was angry.
To be in that mindset.
Yeah. But he was angry about his boots because he just had a brand new pair of boots, and he really liked those boots. So, but he came back here, suffered from PTSD, and didn't want to leave the house, had some pretty dark thoughts, I believe, at times. And the McCormick Research Institute has really helped him through their equine therapy. So
it's a 10-week program. Amazing stuff occurs there. And most of the people that go through it want to end up working there in some capacity as a volunteer.
They don't want to leave. It's such a good time. But anyway, almost out of time. That's going to be on another upcoming episode. And for the radio show, we're actually going to have, his name is Mike, the soldier. We're going to have him on an upcoming radio show as well.
Great patriot, just an amazing individual.
For sure.
With so much life left to live, and thank God he chose to seek help.
That's right.
Well, that about wraps things up. Make sure you check us out on Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. You can tweet at Dr. Bonati using hashtag AMT or hashtag American Medicine Today. We always like to hear from you, so make sure you message us. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you next time. Talk at you. Bye-bye.